Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're tackling, well, a beast of a source document.
A pretty substantial one.
Yeah, it's the Safety Professionals Reference and Study Guide, specifically the expanded 4th edition. And our plan is basically to dig into it and pull out some really crucial, maybe even surprising pieces of what it really takes to be in this field.
Absolutely. Because this guide, it's pretty much the operational blueprint for the entire environmental health and safety community, EHS, you know. Our goal here is to kind of shortcut things for you, the listener, and show just how incredibly broad and demanding this profession is.
Exactly, because here's the thing that might surprise you. If you picture a safety professional, mostly, I don't know, checking safety glasses or running through a basic checklist.
Like the clipboard stereotype.
Yeah, you're missing like 90% of the picture. Our source here makes it crystal clear. To succeed, these professionals have got to be masters of everything from, believe it or not, constitutional law, all the way through to advanced fluid dynamics, toxicology, organizational change. It's way, way more than hard hats.
It really is. And the author points out this edition, the 4th, had to expand significantly because the industry's needs have just, evolved so much.
How so?
Well, they added critical new sections, things like the legal infrastructure we operate in, detailed record-keeping requirements, and, importantly, sustainability principles. It shows a shift, from just reacting and complying
to being proactive.
Strategic.
Exactly. This isn't just some dusty manual. It's the core text if you want to get those top-tier certifications, like the ASP Associate Safety Professional or the CSP, the Certified Safety Professional.
Okay, so let's unpack some of that required knowledge, starting maybe at the highest stakes level, which seems to be the law.
Makes sense.
I mean, just getting the chance to sit for those exams, the ASP or CSP, you need to meet some pretty strict minimums. Academic requirements, actual professional safety experience. These certifications are proof you really know the rules. And knowing the rules, well, it means understanding where they come from. Which is why the guide, maybe counterintuitively, doesn't start with OSHA standards.
No. What then?
It starts with the absolute bedrock of the U.S. legal system. It actually lists the 7 articles and all 27 amendments of the United States Constitution.
Wow. Okay, that is surprising. Why?
Because the whole safety profession is fundamentally linked to how the government even gets the power to regulate industry and workplaces in the first place.
I mean, that detail alone is fantastic. A safety pros guide kicking off with the Bill of Rights. That says a lot about the level of legal scrutiny they're under.
It speaks volumes about liability, right? An EHS professional deals with basically 3 main types of law every day. First, you've got statutory law. These are the laws actually written and passed by legislatures. Think the Occupational Safety and Health Act itself.
Okay, the big laws.
Then there's administrative law. These are the detailed rules and regulations created by agencies like OSHA or the EPA, the nitty-gritty standards.
Got it.
And finally, there's case law. This comes from court decisions, from precedent. It shapes how those statutes and regulations are actually interpreted and applied in the real world.
And all that legal structure, it really comes down to liability, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, an incident happens, they have to understand torts, which covers what? The legal basis for injuries or damages.
That's exactly right. Civil wrongs. And 2 specific liability concepts are absolutely core to EHS. First is strict liability.
Liability without fault. How does that work?
It's huge in product safety. A manufacturer could be held responsible if their product causes harm, even if they took every reasonable precaution during design and manufacturing. The fact that it caused harm is enough.
Okay, that makes sense for products. But what about just like regular workplace operations? The guide mentions vicarious liability. How's that different?
So vicarious liability is when a company gets held responsible for the negligent actions of its employees.
Ah, okay. The company pays for the employee's mistake.
Pretty much. And the safety professional often has to investigate this very specific legal point. Was the employee acting within the scope of their job when the incident happened? The guide even highlights this specific factor, determining if the employee made only a slight deviation from their duties or a substantial deviation.
So, like, if a delivery driver takes a quick detour for lunch, probably still the company's responsibility if something happens.
Likely, yes.
Yeah.
Slight deviation.
But if they decide to take the company van on a weekend road trip,
that's probably getting into substantial deviation territory. And the company might not be liable in that case. That distinction can define millions in corporate exposure. They are, in effect, the guardians of that boundary.
Okay, so the safety pro needs to be part lawyer. But preventing things from getting to that point often means being part scientist too, right? If liability's the stick, maybe advanced math and physics are the shield.
That's a good way to put it. And the science required is, well, it's surprisingly rigorous. The math review section isn't just multiplication tables.
I bet not.
No. To figure out chemical concentrations, noise levels, radiation doses, they need to be comfortable with scientific and engineering notation, logarithms, which are key for anything exponential.
Like dose response curves.
Exactly. And yes, they need geometry and trig functions.
Wait, trig. SOHCAHTOA. Why does a safety person need that? Are they moonlighting as engineers?
Well, sometimes close. Think about calculating angles for safe excavation slopes to prevent trench collapses, or figuring out the trajectory of a falling object during an investigation. That means understanding mechanics, kinetic energy, potential energy, force, momentum, Newton's laws of motion. All that stuff is needed to design effective guards or procedures.
And it's not just solids, it's fluids too. The source mentions hydrostatics and hydraulics.
Yep. Think about big industrial processes, fire sprinkler systems, pressurized tanks. You need to understand hydrostatic pressure for designing storage tanks safely. Torricelli's law helps with fluid flow out of openings.
Like leaks.
Or controlled discharges, yeah. And Bernoulli's principle, which relates fluid speed and pressure. Knowing that physics helps prevent spills, ruptures, catastrophic failures, it's critical.
Okay, this is where the science gets really interesting for me. Industrial hygiene, IH. This seems to be where physics, math, chemistry, and biology all collide.
That's a great description. It's all about protecting people from chemical and physical hazards in the workplace. And the classic IH approach involves 4 steps: anticipation, recognition, evaluation, and control.
And the evaluation step sounds like where the deep science comes in.
Often, yes. For instance, they absolutely have to use the gas laws, Boyle's law, Charles' law, the ideal gas law.
High school chemistry flashbacks.
Right. But they use them to accurately predict and calculate atmospheric hazards. Think volatile chemicals, gas releases. Getting those concentration calculations wrong could be, well, fatal.
And if there is exposure to something toxic, they need actual toxicology knowledge, not just this is bad.
No, much deeper. The guide details the 4 main routes of entry for poisons, how they get in: inhalation, breathing it; ingestion, swallowing; absorption through the skin; and percutaneous or intravenous injection, basically, a needle stick or a similar skin breach. Knowing the main route for a specific chemical dictates the kind of protection needed.
Is skin absorption a big one people miss?
It can be. Not everything needs to be inhaled. And they also need to understand some pretty complex biology, like with carcinogens, cancer-causing agents. They need to know the typical stages: initiation, the latency period, which can be years long, then promotion, and progression. Understanding that timeline is vital for managing long-term risks.
Okay, so lawyer, physicist, chemist, biologist. What about statistician? Where do numbers and metrics fit in?
Oh, essentially, EHS performance is heavily reliant on solid statistical analysis. You can't just go by gut feel. The guide mentions tools like the Z-score, for instance.
What's that used for?
It tells you how far a specific data point, maybe an air quality reading or noise level, is from the average in terms of standard deviations. Is it a weird outlier or within the expected range?
Okay, makes sense.
And for designing reliable safety systems, like, say, emergency shutdown systems, they have to calculate system reliability. You need to know the probability of failure. Is it a series system where if one part fails, the whole thing goes down?
Like old Christmas lights.
Exactly. Or is it parallel with redundancy built in? Quantifying that reliability is non-negotiable.
And all this statistical rigor feeds into the big metrics everyone tracks, right?
Yeah.
The lagging indicators.
Yep. The 2 big ones you always hear about are TCIR, total case incident rate, which tracks how often recordable injuries happen.
Recordable meaning OSHA recordable.
Correct. And DART rate, days away, restricted, or transfer rate. That focuses on the severity cases where people lost time from work, had their duties restricted, or were transferred to another job.
And those numbers, TCR and DART, they're like the universal scorecard for safety performance.
They absolutely are. Regulators watch them, insurance companies watch them, increasingly investors watch them too. Which leads us nicely from the theory and science to the practical framework, regulations. Specifically, OSHA.
The Occupational Safety and Health Act.
Right.
Everyone knows OSHA sets specific standards for things like ladders or machine guarding. But the guide highlights something more fundamental first.
Yeah, the General Duty Clause. Section 5A1 of the Act, this is kind of the catch-all. It requires every employer to provide a workplace, quote, free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. Even if there isn't a specific standard for something, this clause applies. It's powerful.
So it's the ultimate safety net requirement.
In a way, yes. And beyond that, professionals obviously need mastery of key specific standards that apply almost everywhere, like the Hazard Communication Standard or HCS. That's all about identifying chemical hazards, having safety data sheets, proper labeling now aligned with the GHS, the globally harmonized system.
Makes sense. What else is universally critical?
Well, standards dealing with human biological risks, like the bloodborne pathogens standard. Essential anywhere employees might encounter blood or bodily fluids, like in first aid situations.
Or healthcare, obviously.
Of course. And then there's fall protection. Subpart M in the construction standards, but falls are a huge killer in general industry too. Understanding those requirements is vital.
Okay, so you master the law, the science, the specific rules, but how do you prevent incidents from happening in the first place? How has the thinking on accident causation evolved?
That's a really important point. We've moved way beyond the old simplistic models, like the original domino theory.
Which was?
Basically, the idea that accidents happen in a linear sequence. One unsafe act or condition knocks over the next domino until eventually an injury occurs. Too simple.
So what's the modern view?
It's often called the modern causation model, or systems thinking. The huge shift here is the focus. Instead of just blaming the worker for making an operating error.
He wasn't paying attention.
Right. The modern approach looks upstream. It emphasizes system or management errors. Things like inadequate training, poor procedures, lack of resources, insufficient supervision. These are seen as the root causes far more often than just individual mistakes. The focus is on fixing the system, not just blaming the person.
That sounds like a much more effective approach.
It is. And it's why formal safety management systems, SMS, are now standard practice for any organization serious about safety. The guide mentions common frameworks like the PDCA cycle plan, do, check, act, continuous improvement.
Like quality management, but for safety.
Exactly. And it mentions global standards like ISO 45001 for occupational health and safety management and the U.S. standard ANSI Z10. Safety is managed like any other critical business process now.
And the ultimate evolution of this proactive systems approach seems to be something called prevention through design, PPD.
Yes. This is really the gold standard now. The whole idea of PTD is to address hazards before they even exist in the workplace, during the design phase, the planning phase, the construction phase.
So instead of figuring out how to guard a dangerous machine,
You design the machine so it's inherently safer from the start. You engineer out the hazard.
how do you prioritize those actions?
That's where the ANSI hierarchy of controls comes in. It's a framework that ranks hazard control methods from most effective to least effective.
Okay, what's at the top?
The best options are risk avoidance and elimination. Can we just not do the hazardous task or completely remove the hazard? That's ideal.
If you can't eliminate it,
Then you move down the hierarchy. Substitution, use something less hazardous. Engineering controls physically change the work environment or equipment, like adding ventilation or guards. Then warning signs, alarms, then administrative controls procedures, training, job rotation, and dead last.
let me guess. PPE, personal protective equipment.
You got it. Hard hats, gloves, respirators, they're important, but they're the last line of defense because they rely on the worker using them correctly every single time. The goal is always to control the hazard higher up the hierarchy.
That makes perfect sense. Design safety in, don't just rely on gear.
Precisely. And this forward-thinking approach really sets the stage for the newest frontiers mentioned in this guide's 4th edition. Entirely new chapters focus on sustainability and management of change, or MOSI. This is where EHS pros step into strategic roles.
Sustainability.
Yeah.
How does that fit with safety?
It's framed using the triple bottom line theory, the idea that organizations should measure success not just by profit.
The traditional bottom line.
Right, but also by their impact on people, including safety, worker well-being, and the planet environmental impact. It shows the EHS role expanding beyond just compliance to contributing to the overall health and ethical standing of the organization.
And management of change. Mostly, what's that about?
It's a formal process for managing any significant changes in the workplace. New equipment, different chemicals, altered procedures, organizational restructuring.
Why is a formal process needed?
Because change introduces risk. MOSIS ensures that before change is made, potential new hazards are identified, risk assessments are done, communication plans are in place, training happens. It prevents unintended negative consequences. The safety professional becomes a key player in making sure change happens smoothly and safely.
Wow. Okay, so if we try to pull all this together, the modern safety professional is this incredible blend, part lawyer, part toxicologist, part physicist, part statistician, part systems thinker, part strategist.
It's a unique mix, isn't it? They have to understand the nuances of the U.S. Constitution, but also be able to apply gas laws to calculate airborne chemical exposures. They need to enforce very specific OSHA regulations, but also manage broad organizational change initiatives, using things like the hierarchy of controls and management of change.
This deep dive really makes it clear. Professional safety isn't just about following a rule book. It's a deeply complex, multidisciplinary science that's absolutely critical for any modern operation to succeed and, frankly, to survive. It's the ultimate shield against disaster, both physical and financial.
Absolutely. And when you layer in the increasing focus on environmental management things covered by major laws like NEPA, RCRA, TSCA, which deal with environmental impact, hazardous waste, toxic substances, and you combine that with the triple bottom line thinking, well, you see the EHS professional emerging as maybe the core corporate guardian, protecting not just people, but the planet too.
So, thinking about that prevention focus, here's a final thought for you, our listener. If the goal of this entire profession is preventing harm, preventing environmental damage, preventing costly failures, how long will it be until the financial markets fully bake these safety and sustainability metrics, TCIR, DART, those people, planet, profit measures, into every single major investment decision, demanding proof of strong EHS performance before they'll even commit capital? Something to think about.